This is the Wheelhouse podcast, easily digestible, mostly factual. The Worlds in Wollongong continue, and it's very, very exciting to be coming to you with a bit of the action so far. Before anything else, I want to say a big hello to a digital Kate Bates, who's not here. You're south, aren't you, Kate?
I am. I've been amongst the action. It's pretty exciting, Joel. I've got to say, when I first drove into Wollongong for the first day of competition, I was, I hadn't had my coffee yet. I was feeling like a bit, this is going to be a big week ahead. I was already tired before the event kicked off. And then I got goosebumps and I needed a bit of a favour to find some parking. And the first person I stopped, volunteer, mind you, to get to move a fence. And it was my former national coach in the women's team, James Victor. And I was like, this is cool. I said to him, I didn't imagine to see you in a volunteer t-shirt. And he said, I just wanted to be involved in it. And I think that kind of sets the mood for me for the whole thing. If you've ever met anybody in Australian cycling, if you go to Wollongong, you'll see them again. It's like long-lost reunions happening everywhere, Joel. It's a beautiful thing.
And some exciting action on the track as well. Plenty more to come. We're going to get into that. But also on this episode, a little bit later on, we've teamed up with Decision Inc. Now, data and analytics is the order of the day. We're going to crunch some numbers and use some AI to basically find out if it's true, if Kate's worst fears are confirmed and machines can out-tip experts. I'm really, really fascinated to hear how this all works and how they work out their rankings, what riders they're preferring and why, and obviously talking about variables on the day because as we've seen it so far in Wollongong, anything can happen and does happen. I'm looking forward to that chat. That's coming up a little bit later on. Are you feeling secure, Kate, ahead of that chat? Can I just ask?
Yeah. Episode 12 and you're already trying to get rid of me for a machine. Does the machine wear a wig? I mean, I'm feeling a little bit insecure at this point, Joel. But, we do trust the people over at Decision Inc. and Click who have put this all together. I think it's pretty fascinating. We'll get stuck into that a bit later. But we've got to dive in to some of the unexpecteds. Because if they reckon they can predict a whole lot, I think this week has shown there's a lot even the experts can't predict.
It goes out the window, and it did. It did straight away. The first Norwegian to win a time trial, I believe, in any category for the elite men's. Is that right? Tobias Foss, the Norwegian dream. Now, I've taken to calling him the pride of Vingrum. Now, we might be able to workshop that a bit, but what a massive moment. And, just quickly, what I love about this? He shocked everyone, no more so than the Norwegian media, who didn't send a big contingent to Wollongong thinking, why bother? It's a long way away, costs a bit of cash, won't be anything to get too excited about. Now they're sitting there going, oh no. Oh, what have we done? What have we done? What a moment.
Are you now working for Norwegian media when you're coming down to Wollongong, Joel?
I'm going to have to. Yeah, I've sent him an email to say, I got you guys. It's all good, just in case he backs it up and the medals keep flowing. But what a ride, Kate Bates.
Oh, it's sensational. I mean, I think everything else went mostly to plan for all of the other riders we thought. But Tobias Foss, it was just one of those innocent moments. Because you know what? There was not a lot of pressure on him there. That changes now. That is the last time he'll ever be able to ride under those conditions because from now on, he'll either be the reigning world time trial champion, the former world time trial champion, and nobody's going to underestimate him like they have so far. But the interesting thing, and this is a slight on people in my role as experts, he was top 10 at the Giro last year.
Yeah.
So he's no shrug. It's not as though he's not capable. He just hasn't really poked his head up in the way that we imagined.
He's been up there. He's been there or thereabouts in time trials this year as well, like hovering around the top 10. Did all right in Quebec as well, I believe.
Yeah. And look, what's interesting about that, Joel, is that he says in his post-race interview that one of the reasons he felt quite confident going out there is because he did well in Quebec and Montreal. And I thought, I looked at the results there and I didn't notice him. So I went back and had a look and he was 44th was his best result. So what I find interesting from that is that obviously it isn't about where he finished, but about how he felt in the race and what he was able to achieve. And so I think that kind of highlights the difference between a time trial and a road race. the time trial, what do they say? It's the simplest race that's not easy. It is just who is the strongest on the day. And honestly, until World Champs Day, there's a little bit of guesswork involved. Only your own numbers. And he put his stuff up on Strava, Joel. So he's not shy about sharing what he's up and about. But I like him, though. I think he's he could be our new mascot.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, the pride of Vingram. I love it because he's one of those athletes. He took a bit of time out a few years ago from the sport, just got away from the peloton altogether, refreshed, came back, unassuming, humble, all of those things. I really like it. We were speaking about the turns last week. It's more turns than a circle, this course. It comes down to execution on the day. He got it all right, and some of the more fancied chances, we'll get into it a bit later, but the likes of Ghana didn't. And we saw mechanical issues for the likes of Haight and things like that as well. This guy just got out there and got the business done, and I think credit to him, and he did it. I think he's the pride of Norway, no doubt there, but I think everyone there Aussies love an underdog. We always do. It doesn't matter what sport. So I'm sure the atmosphere on the ground would have been electric when this guy upset everyone, basically.
Yeah. Well, I think Wollongong is really loving the Norwegian vibe at the moment because, of course, in the under-23s, Joel, they backed it up. Søren Warenschold. Try saying that with a mouthful of marbles.
Oh, no. Yeah. Okay.
I actually had to turn to a specialist Twitter account that is doing pronunciations of names. And I can tell you that after that day, it came up on my feed. It's like it had been listening to me try and pronounce it all day. But even the World Feed commentators said it about 6 different times.
I had it wrong.
I think they were probably getting messages.
I had Varenskjold. I shouldn't have even said that. It's too late now. It's out there.
No,
that's
actually one of the Varenskjold.
Varenskjold
is what I believe.
So Varenskjold is one of the false ones.
My face would look very funny looking saying that. I'm trying very hard.
I love it.
I'm trying very hard. I do think that we were having a bit of a pre-giggle at what the European commentators might be up against. Maybe they heard our episode, Joel, and were we'll get you.
Yeah, you just
we'll
wait.
We'll teach you.
Yeah, you just wait, Bates. A little bit of sadness on his as well. The head coach Hans Volk not present a few days ago. It was announced that he's been diagnosed with acute leukemia. So a little bit of emotion tinged to that result for Søren Warenscjold as well.
There was. And both of the Norwegians came out and said that they were sending their thoughts to him, that he was in the hospital, but sending the messages and watching. And for them, they knew that he was going through a very distinct physical and mental battle at the moment. And they just felt like out on course, the only way to honour him and to do the right thing was to also put themselves through a bit of a physical and mental barrier. And I really respect that. And I love that. And to go to a slightly lighter moment, because, Joel, these press conferences can be wild. Or the mix zones, like when they just come off the podium, sometimes they're just talking in all directions. So straight after he talked about his coach, and that was a beautiful tribute, we then found out that the reason he started cycling in the first place is because he has apparently a very strong love for ice creams and was putting on a few, not even COVID kilos, just kilos, because of all the ice cream he was eating, and got punted onto the bike for perhaps a little bit of fitness and health.
I love that.
There you go.
I think his mum or someone was saying, look, you can have your ice cream. You've got to ride 10 or 15 kilometres to get it, but it's all yours.
Yes.
Yeah. What a cool
exactly.
cat. I love that. That's fantastic.
And I've been, I must admit, I've been multitasking a little bit in the broadcast, trying to find out facts about these riders that, we'll be honest, none of us heavily researched. And so I typed into my computer Wollongong and Norway and Viking, because I thought, who knows what might come up.
Yeah.
I thought the Wollongongians, I think that's what we've decided to call them, are loving these Norwegians. And there's a lot of Norwegian fans out on course, I might add.
Yeah.
And apparently, not only is the local rugby club called the Wollongong Vikings.
Yes, of course.
So there's that. But they have a festival every 4 or 5 years, where about 400 or 500 locals descend into the local forest, dress up like you can't make this stuff up. Dress up like Vikings and spend a long weekend, living like the Vikings.
Yeah,
So there you go.
It's extraordinary. There's 600 of them. They're recreating battles and lifestyle from Europe between 400 and 1100 AD. So there you go. I'm torn up.
There you go.
The organisers say basically sometimes we're perceived as eccentrics. It's like, oh, are you? Wouldn't have guessed it. My thing is, if the peloton or any kind of pro elite rider on a modern futuristic bike rode past and they're committing to this time period of 400 to 1100 AD, they will really freak out because this technology didn't exist in those times. What's going to happen there?
I don't know. I'm wondering if they'll have a forest party for them, perhaps.
That's a good idea.
Curious. I mean, we're down there on the weekend, Joel, so perhaps we can investigate the Vikings in the forest.
Oh, I would be there. I'm a Norseman at heart. I would be right in the thick of it. It's great to see though, and maybe that Norwegian pride and that little bit of that energy in the air is what's helping the likes of Tobias and Soren soar to great heights in Wollongong. Now, speaking of soaring back to great heights on the Wheelhouse podcast, my name's Joel Spreadborough. Catherine Bates is here digitally. Although I should say your cardboard cutout is also here. It's a little bit freaky. I'm sort of going between eye lines of the actual you and the fake. Anyway, now your great mate, Ellen Van Dyke. Now talk about roaring into contention. She didn't make our picks recently, but gee, try stop her.
It was just a brilliant ride. Like I almost wanted to say it was a dominant ride, but it wasn't actually. She only won by 12.6 seconds, which over 34 kilometres is not a whole lot. She beat Aussie Grace Brown, who also had a brilliant ride. But this is the third one for Ellen. We've had Johnny Longo has won 5 in history of the individual time trials at World Championship level in the elites. Until this year, there were a whole spate of riders who were on 2 victories apiece. Now Ellen is on 3, so she kind of moves herself up into second in the history books overall there. But just the joy on her face and the happiness, like a really satisfying victory for her. And for anybody who is a fan of her, and that is me, definitely. But she posted a great photo afterwards, Joel, where she was looking down at her medal. And she said, the moment I was wishing it was a chocolate medal.
As is her right. You know what?
So,
she's won enough.
She
deserves a chocolate medal if she wants a chocolate medal.
Yeah, there are some strong ice cream chocolate kind of vibes going on here from the gold medalists. So, community service, any local providers, get it out to the teams. They're after some treats.
A real pack of sweet tooths, aren't they? And look, it's good to see a member of the Trident do well. You know how much I love the Trident. Extraordinary.
Trident, yes.
But your mate, Gracie Brown, extraordinary effort too. Second fastest gal in town. Sat on the throne for quite a while. That's been a bit of a trend as well in the TTs. But she sat there and she sat there.
Hold on. Sat on the throne for quite a while. I'm just going to pull you up there.
I call it a throne. No,
it's a hot seat.
I should have mentioned, I've adopted throne. I want it to be, it's a throne, and they get dethroned or they get crowned.
Oh, yeah, I see that. It's just where I come from.
You're thinking of a toilet.
Yeah. Oh, come on, Joel. I was going with innuendo, not actual crassness. But Sorry. All right, if you've taken us there. But yes, I reckon it's a record possibly. I think it was for about 3 hours that she was sitting in said hot seat / throne. She was pretty good natured actually, and as it came toward the back end, she was all smiles and her eyes were light because her goal was to get top 3. Her dream was to win, and she said afterwards, "I've achieved my goal. Now I can chase my dream." And I love that. I think that's so cool. I think what an inspiration. It's the best result Australia has had since 1999 when Anna Millwood got the silver medal as well. We haven't ever won it. So I think if anybody can, Grace Brown is our girl moving forward. So we will keep a hot eye on that. But sensational result. Good way to open the championships for the Aussies and the fans too.
It was massive. It was massive. Now, I can't help another humble champion. We'll talk about statues of Grace Brown and all that kind of thing later because it will be a thing. But I just have to say I couldn't help but notice the suits, the TT suits. They're rather flash, Kate Bates.
They are very flash. I mean, I know that you put up on our socials this week a beautiful video of yourself going from transitioning between outfits, from the dressing gown to the Broncos jersey to the beautiful Champsys kit. I did have a question about that though. Were they like your different iterations of riding kit? Did you start in the dressing gown?
Yes, I used to ride in my gown. Yes, yeah. I learnt the hard way that chains and dressing gown ropes don't co-assimilate, whatever the word I'm looking for. They don't work together.
And the locals weren't too pumped about that. But that kit that you got, it's beautiful. But even that is not specific enough for a time trial. So Champsys actually have one of the teams in the World Championships, Hong Kong, they're providing that attire for. And so I asked the questions because I thought I knew it all. But things have changed a lot in the last decade since I've been off the bike. They've got this really special material on the shoulders that is aerodynamic and it's all about fit, long sleeve and as close to the knee as possible. There's UCI regulation where you're not allowed to wear long legs. Think kind of Kathy Freeman, Sydney 2000 kind of outfit.
Yep.
You're not allowed to wear that. And so they're within some constraints around that. But I understand that the different fabrics around the shoulders and arms where the air surface is hitting and then also the chest. So they're constantly testing fabrics and rejigging all of that. And also the fit, Joel. So these are so tight when you put them on that honestly, if you are already sweaty or something, you can't even get them on. And when you take them off, they look like they shouldn't fit an adult, but they stretch beautifully and become one with the skin. And you notice that on a lot of the riders that there's a seamless transition from the fabric to the body. And that is the whole point. It's really cool. I mean, I think we need to get you in a skin suit now.
Oh, come on now.
Not just Nixon jersey.
That video was very symbolic, retiring the Broncos jersey from my riding kit. But it's extraordinary the technology that goes into these. It truly is.
It is. And apparently also in Wollongong, Joel, it hasn't been that hot. It's only been around 20 to 21 degrees. But the Europeans have been saying that out on course, when there is no coastal breeze and there's no trees over the road, that they're all getting really, really hot and they're finding the conditions quite overwhelming. And so it's really important that they've also got pretty breathable kit on and stuff as well. And they've been warming up with ice vests. So, another advantage for the Aussies. We don't think 21 degrees is it's too warm at all.
No, definitely. So, most definitely not on the Wheelhouse podcast. It's fascinating to hear about all of the tech. But I want to have a quick nod, if I may. History being made left, right and centre in Wollongong. For the first time, golden rainbows dished out for the under-23 women's Vittoria Guadenza. I've had a go there. Guadenza, Vittoria Guadenza. How'd I go? You're shaking your head.
Guadenza. Okay. I think same. Yeah, that's good. No, that's good. I think actually, who knew the Italians? Their names are proving quite easy for us, aren't they? No, sensational ride for her. She won the first ever under-23 World Championship for women in the time trial. Yep. She also came top 5 in the elite, so she had an exceptionally good day out there. But it just reminds us there's been all this debate about giving the women a division on their own and an individual race versus a medal. I can tell you on the podium, Joel, none of that mattered to her. She was the under-23 world champion and absolutely lapping it up. So I'm pretty pumped that is on. And so also in the elite women road race, we'll have the under-23s competing in the same race, but for their own jersey and medal.
It's wow how the sport evolves. And while we're on the theme of shout outs, I must include another Aussie. So silver medal to Hamish McKenzie, under-19s, massive talent. He's from Launceston, by the way, so I'm going to throw it out there now. The next Richie Porte, you heard it here first. He also spent an extraordinary amount of time on the throne. I think he was pretty early out. He was like 4th. I might be wrong, but he was pretty early out. Sat up there until Josh Tarling, the favourite, scorched it.
Yes, I think from memory he went off at like 1:47, and then Tarling went off at 4:28. And so there was a very solid time sitting on that. He had no expectation of winning. He had an outside expectation of a top 5, hoped for a top 10. So it was brilliant, like incredible result from him. And I love the juniors, like the junior burgers from Australia. Just to clear up that terminology, Joel, that's how they're affectionately
Of course,
called within the sport, junior burgers. They haven't been really competing internationally very much lately because of COVID and border restrictions and whatnot. So internationally, they're a bit of an unknown. We knew that Tarling was the hot favourite coming in. He's already been signed for the next 3 years by Ineos. Like, he's on everybody's radar. But Hamish McKenzie is on less radars until now. Fantastic. Yes. And he's looked after by Henk Vogels at ARA Pro Racing Sunshine Coast. So shout out to the mob up on the Sunshine Coast. They've done an incredible job of developing these athletes. And in fact, Cam Rogers, who was the second best Aussie, he was with them until recently as well. They've got a really good track record of getting their riders off to the pro ranks. You're hearing it here now, Joel. Watch this space. Hamish McKenzie is going to get picked up by the end of the championships. There's my hot prediction.
Got a team tip? Where's he going to go?
He did. Apparently, he has been linked to Jumbo Visma in terms of have been sniffing around him. That's a bit creepy.
That was a
isn't
great dramatisation.
That would be. Yeah. Thank you. Yes, reenactment, dramatisation.
Jumbo have been sniffing about. Yeah, love it.
I think that would be a great fit for him. And given his time trialling ability, we know that they love their time trialists.
Yeah.
So if you can't go to Ineos, where Tarling's going, then Jumbo would be my next choice for him.
Well,
not sure I get it. Do I get a say? But, you know.
I'll give him a ring. They're all your mates. Just say, look.
Mum, Dad.
Yeah. Yes. Give him a quick ring. Say, yeah, I'm a cousin of Jonas. You might have heard of me. All of that.
Right.
Honestly, what the battles that will unfold, Tarling with Ineos, because he signed that recently. If Hamish ends up with someone like Jumbo, that's great. That's the future of the sport. Very, very exciting. This is the Wheelhouse podcast. The Rainbow editions continue to come your way. I'm very, very excited about this. We've been teasing you. We've been taunting you with it all episode. The ultimate question, can AI and machines outpredict the experts? Human versus machines. It's all come to the crunch. And I'd like to introduce a very special guest to help resolve the debate. Aidan Heck, CEO for Australian CEO for Decision Inc., data analytics technology consultancy. Great slogan, by the way. Do great with data, Aidan. That's what it's all about. Thanks for joining the Wheelhouse, mate.
Pleasure, Joel. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I'm going to begin at the beginning. Now, Kate Bates is here as well. She'll ask the much more technical and interesting questions. But I just want to start by, why the interest? Why cycling and analytics, Aidan?
I mean, it's a perfect match, Joel. You know, I've always been a bit of a sports fan and a sports fanatic, I guess, and participated. And as I've got older, I've realised that I need to find an edge somewhere. And turns out that data is part of that story. And the more you bring it together, the easier it is to perhaps slightly improve your own performance. And in a lot of sports, it's still untouched. There's still so much potential out there. And you'll get a bit of a feeling for that as we go through this conversation, today, Joel.
Aidan, I'm a little bit concerned for my job here because Joel reckons if these machines do what they're supposed to, that my job as an expert might go out the window. So to help me feel just a little bit better, can you talk us through like the artificial intelligence, machine learning, all of that stuff?
Yeah, cool. So apologies to anyone who's an expert in this field. I'll try and keep it super simple. Machine learning is where we've got machines, computers that take big amounts of data. The bigger the data, the longer the history of the data, the better the chances are that the machine is going to be able to find patterns and predictions that then helps drive some sort of insight or prediction to use that data. So machine learning is sort of looking at all that data at scale. And if you look at artificial intelligence, that normally taps on the end of it. So it takes away the decision making And it helps look at all of those choices and goes, okay, what's the best possible answer that we can do here? Okay, great, let's make that choice. So the really easy example is Google Maps. So if you think about you get in your car in the morning and you say, right, I want to go to wherever I want to go to, Google Maps will give you 3 or 4 choices. It'll give you a view on what's the fastest out option. That's machine learning, right? That's in real time going, okay, that's the machine telling me what my choices are. If you've got a Tesla and it's connected to your calendar, you get in your car and it'll already have done those choice options for you, and it will have plugged in the best possible answer for you and have the route map ready to go. Now that's artificial intelligence. You don't even need to think. Just remember your coffee and you're ready and raring to go. Now, if I think about Kate and how do we replace Kate, Joel? I mean, I think we should open up that debate further.
Hey, absolutely. Now.
Kate, just take your headphones off for just a sec, if you don't mind. It's interesting though.
Sorry, Joe, and it's interesting that a lot of the work that we do, the expert, sorry, Joel, but the expert is still needed, because you need somebody who understands the type of data that needs to go into the machine, and then there's got to be a decision ultimately that comes out of the back end of it. And often you're left with some choices. It's very unusual that there's just one clear-cut answer. And the exercise that we've done for the UCI Champs, you'll see that, and we can talk through some of that. So I think, Kate's still safe, at least another 6 months, 12 months.
That's good to know. Look, I wouldn't have it any other way. I want Kate around forever. On the Wheelhouse podcast, Aidan Heck is the CEO, Australia for Decision Inc. We're chatting about data, analytics, and Kate Bates' job security at the moment. Now, I want to hear about your predictive model for the Worlds, Aidan, if you don't mind. Can you explain to us? I'm really interested in what you're saying about AI, programming best routes. I'm used to doing it on Google Maps, avoiding tolls. One day, maybe the riders can even avoid magpies. You could program in hotspots and predict flight patterns, that kind of thing. But I'm sure that's not there yet. Can you explain a little bit about the model in use for the Worlds?
Yeah, of course. The way that we've done it, I guess it's important actually to draw a distinction between men's and women's. And one of the things that we found interesting is that the data that's available, there's about 40% less data available for the women's races than there is for the men's. And that's because less races, and some of the races haven't been going for as long, so some of the classics that we used as inputs. But ultimately what we need to do for the model is we go and we look at all of the different types of, we call them attributes. So whether that's, it can be as random as how many race days they do. It can be how many times they place. It could be UCI points. We use Pro Cycling Stats. They're a great partner for us, and they have an amazing wealth of information. So we build a model that gives us all of the different attributes of a rider. Okay, so all of those things are all plugged in. And in this particular case, there was something like 96 different attributes. Now, what the machine does is it looks at it and goes, okay, which of those attributes is the most meaningful? And it gives a view on what is the perfect attribute fit to win the race. And then it looks across all of the different riders and their attributes and goes, okay, which is the riders that best match the right attributes to win the race? So a lot of work goes into making sure that you get the right attributes, and the machine's constantly learning when it's looking at all of those attributes, and it's trying to figure out what is the best combination. And you also have to classify riders into groups as well, which is tricky because there's not a lot of data compared to a normal model that we would use. All of that comes out, and we have a set of choices around an algorithm, which is basically a fancy word for a calculation. In this case, we ran 6 different calculations, and we looked at which of those calculations gave us the best prediction. And it gives you an accuracy score at the back end of it for both the men's and the women's. And then that eventually gives us a list of our top 10 riders and the probabilities of them winning the race. Make that sound super simple. It's actually a lot of work when it comes to getting the data to look nice and perfect and rolled up. And we were very lucky because Pro Cycling Stats have been around for so long. Their data, my data scientist was in love somewhat with their data because it was so beautiful and so easy to work with. But fundamentally, we look to build the perfect race attributes. We then look at the attributes that are available, and then we match the riders with the perfect attributes to what's going to win the race. And then just a couple of things we did as well is we played around with some of those inputs. So we ran a general model. And what I mean by that is all of those attributes I talked about, we ran all those across all the riders, and we came out with a prediction. And it was interesting because there was about 10 riders that were between 26% probability of placing and 15%. And it was all the names you would expect. Okay, so that's sort of a general model. Then what we did is added in another 5 attributes that were specific to Wollongong. Okay, so we went and looked at things that would make a difference to how you would predict on the back of the attributes of the Wollongong race, how hard it's going to be, the course, all of those sorts of things. And amazingly, it just zoned down to 3 riders, top 3, and then a whole bunch of a smaller tail. And those riders, some surprises actually, and the names that were pulled out for those top 3 riders.
Oh, okay. That excites me.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm also really interested in all of the different data points because I'm wondering, especially Joel's a bit of a cycling convert, Aidan. And so I'm wondering if style of coffee choice, whether you're a latte drinker or a macchiato, whether they're kind of interesting traits. But can you tell us then, and we want to get the listeners involved in this too. So for our listeners, go to the show notes and you'll be able to find the link to make your own pick and see if you can beat the machine. And I urge you to, so that enough of us are competitive so that I don't lose my job. But Aidan, can you talk us through the top 3 predictions for the men and for the women? And I have just seen these come through, but Joel has not yet. And so I want to see a live reaction to this one.
Yeah, so in the women's top 3, we've got, I guess, what you'd call a Dutch clean sweep. So you have Marianne Vos, we've got Annamiek Van Vleuten, and you have Demi Vollering. 1, 2, and 3. And Mariana came out at 42% probability of a place. Annamiek was 22, and Demi was 18%. Now, there were some others very close. So just to be clear, Elisa Longoborghini was at 17%. Elisa Balsamo was at 15%. So there's not a big spread right in that top 5 to top 10. And the lowest of that top 10 was Amanda Spratt, unfortunately, Australian.
Not Spratty Blue shoes, no.
5.45%. So
but still in the top 10.
Still in the top 10, yeah.
You got to take that, Joel. Still in the top 10.
Yeah.
Now, in the men's, I guess not much of a surprise, but the scale of it was incredible for us, was Wout van Aert, and he was at 74%, which is unbelievable.
Kate's mate, Wout van Aert. Okay, 74%.
Yeah, but this one you'll love. So Bling, Michael Matthews, 55%.
55, not bad.
Yes, go you good thing.
Right. Like I was blown, no offense to Bling, but I was blown away by that number. And he also came in, I think, 5th or 6th in our generalised model. So he's right up there. He's right up there. And then third by a long distance at 8% was Mathieu van der Poel. And then, like I said, there was a long tail that sort of for the remainder of the riders.
How interesting.
This is so fascinating.
So in the women's, a slightly new look Dutch Trident. And Spratty Blue shoes getting into the top 10.
Oh, you and your Dutch Trident, Joel. You can't help yourself.
It's a fluid Trident, it is. But I'm really interested in Van der Poel getting in 3rd place there with 8. So what's the gap? Like that 8% is, 4th and onwards, is that pretty close to that sort of number? Or is it a big gap for him as well?
So another interesting left field one was Keegan Swinson. He's the CX crossover rider who's obviously super strong, but he was the next at 6%. And then you had 4, 4, 2, 2, 1. So it really fell off a cliff. Like, the sort of the lineup for Wout van Aert on this was very, very strong.
I'm fascinated by the gaps.
Yeah, big gaps. And I guess if you think about the nature of the course and Wout van Aert, and you could also argue that there's a team aspect to this, because the way the model's built is very much output based. So it's really around the results the riders have achieved. It's not input based. So, we don't take a look at physiology, for example. We know Mathieu van der Poel's been training really well. So, we don't know how he's going to roll up to the start line necessarily. But with Wout van Aert, with the Belgian team, he's got a powerhouse around him. And he has had all season between that and his team, his Jumbo Visma. But yeah, I was really surprised by just how strong it was for him.
It's amazing what you can glean from data, from the stats you refer to, an app as well, to crunch those numbers that way. It's a really, really fascinating system in place, and we'll look forward to seeing how it plays out. Aidan Heck, Australia CEO for Decision Inc. I think you've lived up to the do great with data slogan, and really appreciate you coming on to the Wheelhouse podcast.
It's been a pleasure, Joel. I want to thank Click. We've been using their model to build this, so they've been very accommodating. And I also want to thank Pro Cycling Stats, who've been amazing. Bert Litt, he's a legend. He's been providing us with all the data at the back end of it. And look, I wish all of the riders the best of luck. I just want to put a caveat to this. It is cycling. Anything can happen. I mean, look at the men's TT this week. I mean, I don't want to go backwards and try and predict that.
Yep.
So, we've done our best to try and give a running start of what we think is going to be the winners, and we hope everyone participates and puts their selections in. We'd love to give some prizes away if someone beats us.
I'd love to see what the percentage was for Foss. That would have been pretty interesting. I'm guessing maybe a little low. Yeah.
I got to tell you, I was tempted to run Caleb Ewan through the machine last night just to see, but I thought, I don't want to start that argument.
That would have stirred the pot. Just for me, if you don't mind, Aidan.
Tempt you to do it.
I've been trying to coax Kate into making a comeback, so can you put Kate through the machine for us as well and just get us a percentage there? And I'm not giving up on Kate getting back on the bike.
Luxury.
Mate, thanks so much for your time.
Pleasure. Thanks, Joel. Thanks, Kate.
Well, I reckon my job's pretty safe for now, Joel. But the data thing is so interesting. Speaking of which, somebody who is head in the deep diving into the data, didn't have a great result in Wollongong, I might add, is Filipino Gannas. He was the outgoing world champion. We had pretty high expectations for him, but it was no cigar. But he's going for the hour record soon.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what it is. Maybe he's just focusing on that.
Oh, as you would. It's fascinating how that all came unstuck in Wollongong. I'm really interested by this story, Kate Bates, because Giro organisers have spotted a bit of a glitch here. It's scheduled for October the 8th, which is, of course, the same day of the Giro di Lombardia, the last monument classic of the year. So they're like, what are you doing? What are you doing? This is massive. The hour record attempt is huge. It only fell, I think, last month. It's 55.548 kilometres from Dan Bigham. This is a big event, and they're going, no, you can't clash with a classic like that. What's the story? How does this sort of thing happen? This is a scheduling kerfuffle.
I know. I mean, Ineos knew about this, obviously. It's a monument. It's been around for over 100 years. So I don't know why they didn't consider the PR around that. Or maybe that's the whole point. Maybe they're trying to take a little bit of focus off a race that they're not particularly focused on at all, and give themselves a big way to finish the season. I don't know. It seems like a bit of an anomaly, but I think it's almost even funnier that RCS, the organisers of the Giro, which incidentally, that's also River City Studios, where our bunker is. I was kind of a bit confused when I said that, but no. Same acronym there. I'm surprised they even did anything with it, rather than just get annoyed by it but let it go. But to come out and officially ask for a change, if anything, they're just throwing more focus and light on what Ghana's trying to achieve. It's like guerrilla marketing from Ineos.
A little bit. Yeah, it's a bit disruptive and a bit sort of, oh, no, this really bothers us. But at the same time, check out what's going on. At the moment, it remains scheduled to go to Grenchen, Switzerland. I don't even know how I went then. Grenchen in Switzerland, the velodrome. I should just say head to a velodrome in Switzerland to have a crack at Dan Bigham's 55.548. That will be extraordinary to watch. I hope they work it out. You want your best riders, obviously, at the biggest races, so hopefully they can get that sorted. But wow, I wonder about Ghana having a go at this, and if his head wasn't quite in Wollongong because it wasn't his day in the time trial. Now, speaking of not someone's day. I love this. This is what I love about the sport so much. I love the brutal honesty and the rawness and the reality of these riders. Now, your very good mate, Annamiek Van Vleuten, who made our list for the time trial, Elite Women's, yet tick her off, she'll be there. Wasn't there, didn't do the best, didn't have the best day in the saddle. On the back of it, showed a bit of classic Dutch passion in a post-TT interview. Take a listen.
Annamiek, how was this TT? For you?
Shit.
Shit, what happened?
I couldn't push the power I wanted to push, so I underperformed today with my power. That's sometimes time trial, you don't have your day, and then it's a long day out there, 34 kilometers always suffering, but if you don't believe that you have the reward in the end, it will become even harder.
Love that. I love that so much. You know, I spend a lot of time working in other sports, Kate, and the amount of sort of no frills manufactured media you get. Oh, you know, it's a game of two halves and the boys just do what they can. And at the end of the day, we'll just think about next week. It's like you never do you hear, how'd you go? Shit.
I
loved
that
it.
cracks me up too. Look, you know, I want to get a bit serious about this for a second though, Joel, because we have the 8 Nations tipping competition. We are participating again, thanks to Mark Pryor on Twitter, who organises that. I put in an entrance for myself. I put one in for the Wheelhouse. I noticed, by the way, didn't go unnoticed, that you didn't put your own individual one in, but that's all right.
I'm terrified.
Both
I just wanted to go on yours. Yeah.
Both the Wheelhouse and me, we chose Annamiek Van Vleuten.
Yeah.
So on behalf of us, her performance was shit. I'm going to regret saying that. Don't you dare clip that up. Please, please, please. This is where I have to be very careful. No, it was a really average performance from her, though. But some days you're the hammer, some days you're the nail. Like, it happens. And when you've won so much like her, it's disappointing, but it doesn't define you. People will have forgotten it by the weekend. She won't have, though. It'll add more fuel to the fire. So I think that's even more dangerous for her. And maybe the Dutch Trident, like Aiden was talking about, Joel, maybe a Dutch Trident will come good.
Yeah, well, Dutch Trident. I need to review the weapon. It might be a mace or something with more. We need more prongs. I need I
don't even know if there was. Is there some historical reference to the Netherlands and a trident? Because I'm just missing the connection there.
Look, I'm so glad you asked me this on air because I totally prepared for this question. And I'm going to just go out and say, yes, Kate. Yes, there is. You should look it up. It's fascinating reading.
Find it in our show notes.
Yeah, definitely.
Don't be surprised if you don't find it.
I'm very, very sorry. I didn't select the team too. I should say I was scared. I was nervous. I saw your team and I was like, I just don't want to put myself under that sort of searing spotlight pressure. I'll just go with Kate's team. I really like the team that Kate picked. I know that's an awful excuse. Now, speaking of, we spoke about this a lot. They didn't listen to us, okay? I was listening to something earlier and they were saying a lot of the riders are frightened of the pies in Australia. And they were actually thinking that the riders were talking about pies. They're not talking about pies. They're not frightened of pastry. No.
What do you...
They're frightened of
Do
magpies.
they think that there are fans on the balconies hurling pastries
The pie
at the
throwing
riders?
as they go up Campbell Street.
Although,
yeah.
I tell you what, a hot pastry pie
In the face.
that hasn't been cooled, that is a weapon.
A face full of dropped
But
pie.
yes,
yeah.
a face full of dropped pie.
The magpies, though, the actual pies, have been causing, as expected, and look, don't want to make a big deal of it, but we only said it 400 times on the Wheelhouse podcast, UCI, so thanks for paying attention. They have been causing a bit of havoc. Now, I love this. Grace Brown came out and said, yeah, look, they don't just single out people from other countries. Aussies get copped too. I was getting hammered. Remco comes out and says, oh, this is an Australia thing, right? Oh, okay. Thanks for the heads up. And I'm actually terrified of these birds. And he's not alone.
No, he said they want blood. Yes, Remco, they do. Welcome to Australia. They'd all read their Lonely Planet before they came, and they thought spiders, snakes, that's fine. Worst we'll cop is a wallaby jumping out when we're on the roads. We'll keep our eyes on from that. Don't ride around dusk and dawn. Like, they were all over it. Don't go to Wolf Creek, even if John Jarrett is from Wollongong.
Yeah,
but no, the magpies, they've been copying it left, right and centre. Every single time I go onto social media, I find another athlete. It's almost like it's a little bit of fun for them now to see if they can catch it on video. But our own Merksy, Joel, this? I unmasked him last. I think the time will come where I unmask him, but for now we'll go with Merksy. He got swooped as well. He copped it big time.
And being a professional producer, camera operator, award winner, guess what he did? He didn't think about saving his own life. He thought about shooting the event. He thought about filming. He framed it up. And you can head to our socials to have a look at Merksy, the sheer terror on his face. But the steady hand of the camera arm bringing all the pictures as the birds do what they do. And I love how a lot of the riders are like, oh, it's an Australia thing. And as Australians, we traditionally play this role as like, yeah, look, yeah, when you come to Australia, you just got to be tough and there's crocodiles in the backyard and all that. It's fine. It's all good. With magpies, we're like, yeah, no, they're awful and terrifying and we all hate them and they give all of us nightmares. So we're all in this together.
Yeah, we're all in this together. When I first saw Merxie's magpie tape, Joel, he's got a beautiful face, and I thought, don't get his face. But I'm happy to report that his face remained untouched by the end of that ordeal.
Yep.
Even if he was slightly terrified, and even if Remco and Grace Brown are going home with little dents in their helmets as well.
It'll be interesting though
welcome to our shores.
Yeah, exactly. Welcome to Australia. And when we see the elite road races, if it plays any kind of role, being close-ish to the finish, a bit of a hot spot, all of that. Be fascinating.
I just want to check, because you guys are on the ground in Wollongong for the road races. I'm just wondering, will you be on the start line handing out Wheelhouse logoed zip ties for helmets?
Yes.
Or is that the plan?
Yeah, I'm going to be wearing a Borat-style mankini, Wheelhouse edition of that. And
I hope it's in, the Wheelhouse colours at least.
Oh, yes, it is. It's the orangey sort of tinge, and I'll be throwing them like Frisbees. So there'll be little Wheelhouse things, and as the peloton comes past, I'll throw them. And if my aim is to get one to stick onto Pog's suit as well, if I can, or get one caught in the spokes.
Helmet. Go for the helmet.
Okay, do the magpie, go for the head.
Okay, all right. Yep. I'm thinking your accreditation might get withdrawn, but don't
mention that to anyone. It'll be an on-the-day thing. We'll see what happens.
Just our secret. All right.
Yeah. The Wheelhouse podcast. Now, my mate, I'm going to say my mate as well, Spratty Blue Shoes, a little bit of moving and shaking before heading to Wollongong, I hear.
Yes, so apparently the Aussie team, because they're under such strict COVID bubble within the hotel and within the camp, the athletes aren't coming in until 3 days or 2 days before their event, but they're wanting to fly to Australia a lot earlier, and it's given riders like Sarah Roy and Amanda Spratt a chance to go home, see their family before they come into camp. So Spratty tells us that she has been club racing in Penrith with her local club, just joined in a lazy A-grade criterium, Joel. I reckon they'd be a little bit terrified when she rocked up with her team kit on, and they were like, "Oh, really?
Yeah, just
really?"
a bit. Yeah. I wonder if she wore the Aussie kit, the sharp-looking Aussie kit as well.
I believe she wore her bike exchange kit, but yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty cool, and it shows how down to earth she is.
I love that.
She'll have a very big, not a long drive from Penrith to the Gong.
Yeah.
So I reckon that she'll have an entire Spratty Blue Shoes corner dedicated to her. There's another job for you to go and find that
in my mankini.
Go find Spratty Blue Shoes corner, Joel.
Yeah, lock it in. That's happening. I love how she's like, I could wear my Australian kit, but I don't want to intimidate the amateurs. I'll just wear my bike exchange pro kit instead. That'll be much nicer for everyone.
So thoughtful of her.
Let's stay on women doing amazing things. Now, I need to mention this to finish us off today. This is extraordinary. We were talking about Tobias Foss and that incredible effort in the elite time trial. It was still a close-ish field, though. This is extraordinary. In the junior women's time trial, she was the favourite. Zoe Backstad was 1 minute 35 seconds clear of her nearest opponent. What is that about?
Yeah, that's like brain explosion emoji right there. She was second last year and junior world champion in the road race last year. The 2 years before that, her older sister Eleanor got 2 bronze medals in the time trial, but they come from absolute cycling royalty. So her father is Magnus Backstad, who won Paris-Roubaix in 2004, I think. And her mum is Megan Hughes, who was a rider for Wales, which is why they ride for Great Britain, the Backstads, where Magnus was from Sweden. And she was an incredible athlete herself, but she was terrifying, Joel. Like, she was so good, but she had this look that just seared through you that was quite scary. And I reckon that these girls have just got the most incredible guidance and support. They are setting the women's scene, the whole pro scene, on fire at the moment. So it's really cool. And at the end, sicko. She said it was fun.
Yeah,
All the other girls are literally like, there's footage of the other girls lying on the ground, not able to get up because they've expended so much effort. And she was like, that was really fun.
Yeah.
Thought, right.
I know people like that when you do exercise and you finish this intense session, then they're like, they come up and you're just exhausted and they're like, all right, so when are we getting started? That kind of thing. It was that. And you know what? The future. We spoke about Tarling. We spoke about McKenzie, Backstead, her sister. It's ominous. It's almost ominous. These athletes are getting better and better and better.
It is, but what's really cool is to come in on the ground level of their development, to see them at juniors. And that's what we get to do here. We get to be really familiar with the juniors. And then when they're winning Tour de France's, Paris-Roubaix, we get to be like, oh yeah, I remember when they were 17. And it brings you on the journey with it. And so I think that's really cool. And Zoe Backstead, what a character. I think we'll see more from her in the road races. Yep.
And very inspiring work so far. Plenty more to come at the Wollongong World Championships, including a live edition of the Wheelhouse podcast. Can't wait to do that. Kate Bates, wherever you are, thanks for dialing in.
Thank you. Go get on a plane, Joel, because I can't wait to have the Wheelhouse team on the ground in Wollongong with me.
I was going to ride down. I was going to get the black Champs kit on, but I thought, no, better not. Don't want to sweat up the chamois this early in its life. Kate Bates, always a pleasure. I'll see you very soon.
See you soon.
This is the Wheelhouse Podcast, easily digestible, mostly factual. Thanks for tuning in. The Wheelhouse is produced by River City Studios for Listener. Executive produced by Luke Mears and the mysterious Merksy. It's written and hosted by Kate Bates and me, Joel Spreadborough.